Part 2 is here. I'm gonna hit the play movie.
So I get this phone call, July 30th, 2005, from Steven Spielberg. He calls me up in his jovial self and he says, "Michael, I want you to direct this movie called Transformers." I'm like, "Okay, Steven, well, that sounds great. Let me think about it and I'll get back to you." I hung up the phone, and in 30 seconds, everything that goes through your brain. Is that little robot toy movie? Is that like a small soldier movie? That was just Steven Spielberg calling me up. Oh my God. This is one of my idols wants me to direct a movie that he wants to be involved in. So I thought about it. I called Adam Goodman, president of the studio at DreamWorks. I said, "Adam, so what is this Transformer movie?" He goes, "Well, you should think about it." Adam convinced me to go to Transformer School, which is at Hasbro in Rhode Island. And I'm like, okay, well, let's make the trek. So the next morning, we went into Hasbro. You pass this hallway of all the famous toys we all grew up with. And I sat in this big conference room. I mean, they must have had 25 people in there, all trying to convince me to do Transformers. And they started with Transformer School, which is, they basically take you through the entire lore of Transformers. Now, I've been offered a lot of comic book superhero movies in my short film career, and I've always said no because it really hasn't appealed to me. But one thing I did spark to recently was Japanese anime movies. I just love their visuals. It's just a really unique type of cartoon. And I'm sitting in this Transformer, like lecture. I kept looking at this artwork of just multitude of images, and there was something from this Japanese artist. He had some amazingly dark, cool images that just right there in the room inspired me. I kept thinking to myself, I need to make this very real. I need to make this cool. I kept thinking about cars transforming at 80 miles an hour. Action images would just come to my mind of like, why would I be interested in doing this movie? I did like the lore of Transformers. It's very noble. It's got good morals. It's interesting, but it's like, how do you make Transformers understandable to an adult who has no knowledge of what Transformer toys are? We broaden the story in terms of bringing in the American military. It's this big story, but it kind of comes down to this little story on Earth, which is all about Sam and having these classes. This is kind of how the birth of Transformers happened. Lucky fortune of working with military equipment before anybody else, such as these Ospreys right here. They've never been used in a movie, and I don't think many people have shot that stealth 117 either. So I've got this hotline to the Pentagon. I've got this relationship with the film liaison, Phil Stroop, who helped me on Armageddon, where we worked with the Air Force, and Pearl Harbor, where we worked with the Navy and all the branches. And I called Phil up and I said, "Phil, I'm going to be doing this movie. It's a fantasy movie called Transformers." He goes, "Oh, the kid's toy, huh?" He said, "Well, Mike, if we did have alien robots on Earth, I think the American military would be involved, and we will bring the fight anywhere we have to. So let me read the script. I'm excited to read it." And I guess the rest is history. He loved it. And it's a matter of me going to different bases and trying to convince bases to imitate Qatar, which is the forward command for the whole Middle East. And we found Holloman Air Force Base in New Mexico, which kind of has these white sands, which are test missile ranges.
Sorry, interrupted.
For I think the Army. Why? It was done at Edwards. These are two F-22s, which are the brand new planes that are costing $130 million each. They can take out 6 F-16s before they can even be spotted. They are just deadly lethal, and of course I was the first to use those as well. They let me use this stuff because they look good at what they do in my movies, and working with these men and women, I've done many years of working with them in movies, and really great people, and they're really dedicated, and I really admire them for the service they do for the country, and they don't work for a great wage, but they're just so dedicated to country, and so like just diligent, and just I find many of them so intelligent, and Um, it's always been a great experience when I've worked on these bases, and I really have fond memories of it. Very much they're impressed with how the film industry, because we work very much like the military works in terms of the different hierarchy and how it works on our sets and crews, and they're always very skeptical when we show up because they think we're going to be a bunch of Hollywood, but they always come away with I'm sure with a great respect, and they tell us that they come away with a great respect for what we do because they see it's so similar to the military. So our first transformation here, and the transformation was, how are we going to do this, basically? I had my animators do rough versions of it, but when we had this first version of, that was the very first version I ever saw of that transformation, and it was done by an artist named Keiji. He's Japanese. He speaks like no English. He is the absolute Rubik's Cube genius to figure those things out, of how those parts actually move and come together. In a very odd meeting at Industrial Lights and Magic, I had about 30 ILM artists sitting in a kind of high-def room where we are looking at the artwork that my illustrators had worked for months. I mean, we're talking 8 months on. And then I saw Optimus Prime's face in his first 3D kind of, I guess, iteration of him. He looked terrible. He had this fat, ugly face. And I'm like, you guys got to be kidding me. This is awful. What happened to Optimus? And all of a sudden, in this small room, this guy pops up in the back, and he goes, "That Optimus Prime, he's an insult to the Japanese people. That is an insult to the Japanese. I want to do Optimus Prime." You can tell someone else was obviously modeling Optimus Prime's fat, ugly face. And Keiji knew this. And so I said, Keiji, first of all, this is the most bizarre meeting I've ever been to, the biggest, funniest outbreak I've ever seen. And you know what? Just because of that, I'm going to let you work on Optimus Prime. So not only did Keiji do Optimus Prime in terms of the 3D modeling, but he did the amazing Rubik's Cube of how we were going to transform these robots. Is very concerned of when they do movies is they just want things to be accurate. They're very into like those uniforms. If they are not Qatar issue uniforms, we just can't use them. Right here, I shot this in the tank graveyard. These are old tanks. Some are just kind of shells of other tanks where they actually put them out in the field in this white sands, and they use them as target practice. Started the shoot. The very first day was I shot this little, I guess, Mars rover. I shot that. I got it assembled because I had this idea for a teaser. That was the very first teaser that came out this summer, where we just started shooting. I just wanted to mark our date of July 4th and to say we were real. First day of pre-production photography, I shot in the tank graveyard. My first days really never suck, but this one really sucked. I get to the set, I'm all excited, and I'm walking around with my viewfinder ready to go, and I get on set an hour before call, and the hour passes, and then I'm waiting, okay, where's my crew? I'm like, this isn't good. My crew apparently was just eating dinner. And normally when you get to set, you show up. You either eat dinner before, so my cameraman, Mitch Amundsen, and my operators, everyone's eating, and I'm like, okay. And that pissed me off the first night. So I'm like, Mitch, this is a big movie, and you're not going to be eating your burritos anymore when I show up to set and I'm ready to work. So I think that kind of like shook the ground of everyone for the first night. Because I got to tell you, when I come on the set, I'm like, I come in, they joke on the set, Bay's coming in hot. That means I like to work. I don't like to fart around, and everyone knows that I do a lot of setups every day. An average on a movie is 19 to 25. I do 50, 60, sometimes 75. These are real setups. And I shot a lot of this movie very kind of suburbia. But I didn't kind of sex it up, in terms of, making this slick. This is a classroom that we all know about, we've all been to, and it's something that makes it more accessible, I think, to everybody. And, I've never in my life ever shot in a Burger King, but you know what? We all eat at a Burger King or McDonald's or whatever, and it just makes it more everyday life. And I kind of like this kind of sci-fi movie coupled with this suburbia life. So I thought it was a
Alright. Alright, other part coming soon.